Good morning. My name is Morlando. I'm a Senior Director of Product with OPSWAT, and today I'd like to discuss OPSWAT's cybersecurity solutions and discuss how they address cybersecurity best practices for industrial control critical infrastructure systems. I'm standing in front of OPSWAT's demonstration environment, which is a fully functioning industrial control system. To my left is the operational technology domain, which includes digital control systems along with a HMI engineering workstation, and is also populated with OPSWAT technology for securing the OT environment. On my right is the business domain, or IT network, and it too has business systems you would normally find in the IT environment, along with OPSWAT solutions that are designed and purpose-built for securing the IT network. And in the center here, essentially the DMZ that exists between the OT and IT domain, and it's populated with OPSWAT products, unidirectional security gateways for securing the flow of data between the two domains. So let's take a look at industry best practices and the recommendations and how our products address the recommendations. So the first recommendation is to take an inventory, a detailed, comprehensive inventory of all your critical assets, and then from that is develop a risk management plan which defines the policies and procedures around the usage of all those assets. So OPSWAT's newly introduced Neuralizer product uses advanced AI technology to scan your OT network, discover all your critical digital assets, and build a complete inventory of those assets, including the software revision they're running. And from that database, it can report on known vulnerabilities and alert you to any conditions that need to be corrected with those assets. On a single pane of glass, it'll display the interoperability of all the digital assets, their connectivity to each other, and overlay that onto a Purdue model map showing the layer in your network where those assets are deployed. A second recommendation is to implement intrusion detection technology so that you can get a real-time alerts on network anomalies and can take corrective action. OPSWAT's OT Fuse product is an intrusion detection and prevention platform that's designed to sit within an operational zone of the OT network and enforce or detect anomalies that occur in that environment. What it does is when you deploy OT Fuse, it'll learn the normal operational behavior of that network zone, and then will detect or enforce normal operating conditions for that zone. A third recommendation is for your OT network to be properly segmented, right? This is to prevent the propagation of malware from one operational zone to another operational zone, essentially a containment strategy. Again, OT Fuse acts as an industrial firewall. It'll enforce commands to that zone and limit access to that zone to authorized users and only the traffic that's meant to enter that zone. So it does serve as a firewall, and it does segment a normally flat network into operating zones to enforce that security requirement. Another recommendation is to implement a layered architecture for your OT and IT environment. OPSWAT's NetWall product is a tool that performs that function. So as I mentioned earlier, between the OT and IT network, you should implement a DMZ. What NetWall does, it creates an electronic security perimeter around your critical OT assets and replicates data from the OT environment to the DMZ or out to the corporate environment, so business analysts can have real-time access to industrial control data, perform their functions without entering the OT domain to gain information, thereby shutting down a threat vector. So what NetWall can do is it can transfer syslog, alarms and events, and other data like that to monitor system health. It can replicate real-time operational data using OPC as an industry standard to replicate the tags and the specific values of those tags from the control systems out to a replicate OPC server on the destination side or the IT side. And it can actually replicate historical data. It can, we don't have one running here, but if we had a historian, such as a OSI Pi historian or an Aspatec IP21 historian, it'll replicate the historical data across the perimeter to an instance of the historian in the IT domain or up in the cloud for that matter. Thereby, if there's a issue in the OT environment, right, you can take a look at the historical data that's been replicated into the IT domain and determine what caused the issue. Further along, so that actually concludes sort of the network protection platforms that we have for the industrial control space. Now when we take a look at our threat prevention technology, we'll start with the MetaDefender Kiosk platform. So Kiosk incorporates MetaDefender Core, and what it can do is it thoroughly scans portable media so that outside vendor or a user within your own environment who brings in a software update or a file of some sort will enter the facility and use this platform to thoroughly scan their portable media before files can enter the domain, the OT domain, excuse me. What the platform does is also enforces workflow. So it's a very flexible platform in terms of the workflows it supports, and it really adheres to the security policies that you establish for your OT environment. So for example, you may permit USB media from the outside to enter your OT domain. So you would scan the USB key here, and then in concert with our firewall, our USB firewall product, or the media validation agent software that we have running on the HMI, you would insert the USB here and update your HMI. If the USB key was not scanned, it won't mount. So this technology prevents unauthorized USB keys from being mounted into your OT domain. A second workflow is, in some instances, they want physical evidence that the USB has been scanned. So we have a printer option here where a hard copy of the scan result can accompany that USB so it can be audited before you enter the OT environment. Another use case is you only want files to enter the OT domain and not the USB media. So Kiosk can be integrated into NetWall and to our Vault platform, such that only the files that need to enter the OT domain are scanned and transferred to Vault, and then the user access rights are transferred to Vault such that only the user can access that files from the HMI and pull those files in to update their systems. Another threat prevention product that we have is our USB drive product, which is inserted here and inserted here. The drive product, if you think about transient assets, so an outside vendor wants to enter your OT environment and they have a laptop that they're bringing in to perform service, right? The drive will thoroughly scan the laptop to make sure that it's clean before it connects to the OT network. So that's an essential tool for making sure that devices that touch your network have been sanitized. On the IT side, we have a number of products that are based off of our MetaDefender Core. So again, as part of the threat prevention philosophy and zero trust philosophy, we're looking at all ways for files to enter your IT domain, and we'll scan those files So we have an email gateway, so files that come in via email are sanitized before they're transferred. We have an ICAP server, so files that are on the network will be scanned. And again, we're using our drive here to make sure that any devices that come into the IT domain are sanitized. We also have a file storage system, so files can be stored and scanned on the platform. So in summary, OPSWAT has a portfolio of products that really address security at every level of the organization, from threats that can enter your IT domain, threats from the potential of software updates or other files that enter your OT domain, and we're securing the facility at the point where threats could potentially enter. So to learn more about OPSWAT, please take a look at www.opswat.com. Thank you.